Shalom, everyone, and welcome back to Did You Know? I'm your host, Rabbi Ira Brower from SHALOM BOCA Messianic Synagogue here in Boca Raton, Florida.
I'm your co-host, Tristan Tice. I actually am excited about this episode and the questions we're going to be answering. I had posted my testimony on YouTube, and there was a girl who had seen it. She's Jewish. She lives in Israel. She's at a seminary there in Israel. And she watched my story, my testimony, and reached out with a ton of questions and wanted just some further explanations about it, and has recently, through some of our conversations and other people in her life and ways that God has guided her, come to put her faith in Yeshua as well, which is a huge win and really, really amazing and a blessing to get to be a part of. But some questions that she reached out to me about, we want to answer here, right now.
All right. By the way, that's an amazing testimony.
Yes.
So glad you're sharing that.
Go God.
Yeah, that's great.
So the first question is, what is the Jewish role in the world overall?
Yeah. So basically the Jewish role is to bring the light of God, the one true God, to the nations. That always was God's intention. Whether it's through Abraham, through your descendants will be a blessing to the whole world. Those that bless you will be blessed. Through all the patriarchs, through the whole story of the Exodus from Egypt, a picture of the difference between slavery and freedom in following the one true God of Israel, through the Ten Commandments, through Sinai, through all of Israel's history. It was always that through Israel, the light of God will be shown to the world.
Right. The next question.
And that's still God's intention, I believe, today.
He didn't just leave them and turn to Christianity,
No.
which is actually a religion kind of more man-made, actually. So.
Well, yeah, but even there, the faith in Yeshua, what we call Christianity, is a result of faithful Jewish people that brought that message to the nations, right?
Right.
Yeshua's disciples that went out into all the nations.
Right. And so are the Jewish people still considered God's chosen people?
Same answer, yes, absolutely. And think of it this way, Tristan, and that is that even today, Israel, the nation of Israel, whenever there's a disaster or wherever there's something going on, earthquake or natural disaster, they're almost always the first on the scene to help. Emergency response teams are there. Medical technology, all kinds of technology. Israel is always in the forefront, and I believe that is the blessing of God, not just for the Jewish people, but to the world as well, to the nations.
Right. So considering the answer is yes, that they are God's chosen people, why do they not follow Jesus' teachings, being God's chosen people?
Well, that is a really good question, and we've talked about this quite a bit on our podcast, and of course, all of Yeshua's followers were all Jews to start with, right? Mm-hmm. And throughout history, there have always been Jewish people. There's always been a faithful remnant of Jewish people that have followed Yeshua, even though it's been small at times because of persecution, because of this notion that the Jews killed Christ, and therefore, for a Jewish person, wouldn't be accepted in the church world so much, or in synagogues. And so it's been a challenge all these years, and the enemy, we have an enemy, his name is Hasatan, Lucifer, Satan, who has perpetuated the lie that Jewish people, if you accept Jesus, then you can't be still Jewish. Right. Which is a lie, because there are many, and we have a whole Messianic movement today that bears witness to that fact that Jewish people can and will accept Yeshua.
Right. And I do think it's fascinating, I love that you touched on it, that actually Jesus is Jewish, and the first followers were Jewish, the disciples were Jewish, and it did have a switch later on historically, where all of a sudden Jesus was now for Christians and not for Jewish people.
Yeah, it almost like he had a identity. His identity was stolen.
Yeah.
Right, and he's made over into the Christian God, and so that's how most Jews see him. And unfortunately, many Christians, non-Jews, see him that way, as well, and have lost the idea of his Jewishness.
Right.
and what that means.
Is there a reason God allowed Jewish life to persist for so long despite ceaseless persecution?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to the first question, which is God's plans and purposes for the Jewish people. And in fact, all of the hardships, persecutions, Holocaust, Inquisition, all those things that have happened to the Jewish people, and yet, as we say in Hebrew, Am Yisrael Chai, the nation of Israel lives, is a testimony to God's purposes for them. Because when you look at history, there's no people that have endured that kind of persecution, exiled from their homeland, and yet have returned and are thriving and still are contributing to the goodness of humanity.
She wrote, my second came up more recently, her second, thoughts and her questions. What does the second coming of Christ look like? And I want to also just throw in there for you to address as well. Is that even biblical, or in the Torah? Like, how would Jewish people understand a second coming? Is that part of their belief system?
Right. So obviously, just in those words, the second coming implies a first coming.
Yes.
Right. And so as followers of Yeshua, we believe he came on the first century. He lived, he was sacrificed, crucified for us, for our sin, buried and rose again. That's the foundation of our faith. And ascended to heaven, and he promised that he would be returning. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we believe that. In Jewish thought, obviously, is based on a Messiah who will come and establish God's kingdom in Jerusalem. And so we call the second coming, for many Jewish people, see as one and only Messiah, coming.
Yeah.
And so there's a joke sometimes with Jewish people, like, well, when he comes, we'll ask him if this is your first time or your second time coming, and then we'll know if it's Jesus or not.
True. That's kind of funny. And so what will that look like for the Jewish people and for Gentiles?
Well, from our perspective as followers of Yeshua, as Paul said, that all of Israel will be saved, according to Romans 11. What that means exactly, every Jewish person that ever lived, every Jewish person that's alive at the time, most Jewish people, different ways of interpreting that, but clearly there will be a time when Jewish people will look to him. In fact, he is not returning until, as he said in Matthew 23, I will not come again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Meaning that the Jewish people must look to him as the Messiah before he actually returns.
Yeah, wow.
And so, yes, we believe in the second coming. He is going to return, just as he said. His feet will touch down the Mount of Olives, and he will establish his literal throne, kingdom, beginning in Jerusalem.
And then her last one was, does this look different for believers and non-believers? If so, what are those differences with the second coming? Yes.
Yeah. Well, that, again, is a huge question. And so he's coming for those who call upon him.
Yes.
Right? And those that have rejected him until the end of their lives, or at that time as well, will suffer judgment.
Right.
And people can look up that in the Bible and see what that is in the book of Revelation, or even in Ezekiel and other prophetic writings. And so that's why we say, receive him now. That would be good.
Let's not wait. Let's
Don't
not wait and hope.
That's right.
Yes. Right. And I guess piggybacking off of that real quick, eternal, damnation, eternal hell, that concept. What do Jewish people believe about eternal suffering, separation from God, this concept of hell, purgatory, heaven? And I know that's broad.
Yeah,
maybe not
it is
one
broad,
for all.
But briefly, in rabbinic teaching, there's the notion that all Jews have a place in the world to come. Mm-hmm. So Jewish thought and Jewish teaching, there is a world to come, heaven, we could say. And the idea is that all Jews will be there and righteous Gentiles.
Okay.
Now, biblically speaking, as followers of Yeshua, we don't hold necessarily to that concept. We obviously do believe in an afterlife. We do believe in heaven and hell, which is separation from God,
Right.
as well. And we do believe that those who accept Yeshua in this life will be with him in the life to come. But in between time is what we call the millennial time, 1,000-year reign. And this is, by the way, a Jewish concept as well, that the world exists for 6,000 years, and in the 7,000 year is a time of peace, time of the Messiah, where every day will be a Shabbat. So it's the 7,000, like the Shabbat rest, except for 1,000 years.
Okay.
And that does fit with how we understand, the return of Yeshua. And
Right.
so he'll set up his kingdom in Jerusalem. It'll last for 1,000 years, and then the new heavens and the new earth when we enter into eternity.
Right.
That's a brief summary of it.
Yeah. I used to believe, and this is just for me in my Jewish faith, that I had to earn my way to get to God, and that this concept of hell, I don't think I even believed in hell. Like, I didn't put much thought personally into the afterlife. I always felt that, if I'm a good person, I'll get to heaven. And I'm Jewish, so I'm just automatically going to heaven because I'm Jewish, I'm chosen, and I'm a good person. I haven't done some of the worst things in life to my own belief system of what I thought was good or evil.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a very common understanding
Yes.
amongst Jewish people, amongst our people. I grew up with that idea, like, you just do good.
Just be a good person.
And be a good person, and you're good.
Right.
And
But that's a logical fallacy, actually. It doesn't make any sense, because what does it mean to be good? And whose standard of good
Exactly.
are you living for? Yourself?
Right.
Doesn't work.
Right. And that's the trap of most religions that we
Yes.
talked about before. By doing good, you're going to merit favor. And that's the basis of modern Judaism as well, keeping all the mitzvot, commandments. Well, what commandments are those? Well, it's all the commandments that are written by rabbis over 2,000 years, which are thousands of commandments, and nobody can keep them all. But the more you keep, the better you're going to be.
Right.
See, it's logical, but not really.
Yes. And it allows you to pick and choose
Yeah.
what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So,
I hope this helped to answer some questions for you. Lots there, but yeah, we just love doing life with you guys. We love getting able to actually have these conversations and not just get these questions and run from them or feel like, we don't want to be challenged. We welcome the challenge. We welcome some of those
absolutely.
questions.
Yeah. Yeah, please, if you have questions, feel free to post them. We'd be happy to try to answer them as best we can. And we appreciate your watching, appreciate you diving into some of these concepts, some of these topics.
Yes. So like, comment, subscribe, share, and we will see you guys next week. Bye.